everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Fashion Grunge Podcast. I am your host, Lauren.
Hi, Lauren. I'm Charles.
Hey, Charles. What's up?
Oh, I'm not much, Lauren. How are you?
I'm good. Are you ready to talk about Reservoir Dogs today?
Totes my goats.
Why are we so cheery for a movie that's like utterly crazy disturbing and apparently 15 people walked out of in a screening because the violence was too much?
Including Wes Craven, of all people.
I know. Who's like Nightmare on Elm Street.
And he also did like The Last House on the Left, which is like probably the most like gory, violent movie like in the last like 30 years or so.
I know. I think it's the realism that probably freaked him out. It's pretty realistic. Like this totally could happen, and this kind of seems like something that may or may not have happened in a dream of Quentin Tarantino's, because that's what it feels like. It feels like a fucking dream, like a weird dream.
Yeah.
But cool.
So it was fun to talk about true romance a couple weeks ago, just because that was kind of like half Tarantino, half someone else. But this movie is like full on Tarantino,
full on from the beginning.
Yeah.
And literally, how else could you describe the very first Tarantino film but having Quentin Tarantino be the voice you hear for the first like 10 minutes? Like literally before it even shows him, you're like, okay, Quentin's just talking now. Like this is literally what we're gonna do. Like this is his only part really in the film, but like this is, okay, this is him. It's conversational. We're going to sit for 20 minutes and listen to this conversation, but it's really funny.
Yeah.
It's so cool. Also, another note, I own this on DVD, but I don't watch it often because it's just kind of like, I don't know. I always think of it differently than when I just recently have finished watching it, which I really enjoy it now that I'm older, and I probably haven't seen it in like 8 years or something like that. So now that I know more Tarantino, although not everything, because I saw it's on Amazon Prime at the time that we're recording this, if you want to watch it. But at the time I was watching it on Amazon, like it was like, oh, watch next. I have not seen Inglourious Bastards, which is also on there. I've heard that's good, so I think I might watch that tonight. But yeah, so I was really excited to do this. I was like, oh man, like it's so cool. I really enjoy Tarantino now that I'm older and like watch a lot more films. At first I was kind of like, whatever.
Yeah.
But now I really like it. So I'm stoked we got to revisit it.
Yeah. I like tried to watch Tarantino when I was a lot younger, and I was just like, all right. But, the more the more I'm getting older, the more I'm just starting to enjoy stuff like more and more.
Yeah.
And, I kind of had I think when I first started watching his movies, I had a similar movie or a similar reaction that I do to watching Wes Anderson movies, when I'm just like, all right.
Yeah, that's the first time I saw Pulp Fiction. I think it was like I was trying to impress this guy at college, and he was like, I have this like DVD of Pulp Fiction, we should watch it. And I was like, okay. And he was definitely like someone who was like a film major, and I was like, God. I was like, all right, yeah, cool, I get it. Like it's super violent, it's super like fucking cool. Like I feel like it was one of those like try hard film student. Like always was obsessed with Tarantino because it was like he did things on a low scale and kind of like had this new thing. It was like the new Scorsese. He's like the Scorsese for like the younger set, so he has like his own thing going on. And I was just like, whatever. And now I'm just like, that's cool. Like, I would totally want to work on, like, I want to be in Death Proof. Like if there is a sequel or it ends up turning into a TV show, like that would be an amazing HBO show. They should make a Death Proof TV show with those three women.
I know.
And like various things that they get into. Like it's just so crazy. Yeah. So it's really fun.
Oh yeah, so there are like three sort of like storytelling devices that this movie uses that I'm a big fan of. And one of them is that it like I guess minus the flashbacks, it more or less takes place in like the same location like throughout the entire movie. And then I think it also kind of is supposed to take place in like real time too.
It is pretty short. You can tell that they're not, like when they're in that warehouse, like, the time is moving, I think, with them. Like we're moving with them. You don't see like a dramatic shift in time.
Yeah, like think I read in an interview that Quentin Tarantino said that like the warehouse scenes are supposed to take place over the course of like an hour. So
wow.
And then I also love the fact that just about everyone dies.
Yeah, I was gonna say it like that when they have that like standoff where
Yeah.
they all have their guns pointed and it's like boom, and I'm like shit. There's like one person alive now.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. And not to be like even more now that I'm even older, I have this other point where I wrote like most of the cast minus the dad could get it. Like Buscemi, definitely Michael Madsen, love him in Thelma and Louise, which we saw him before. Tim Roth, totally. Harvey Keitel, yeah, all right, whatever.
I'm not so much attracted to him physically, but like I'm like attracted to his personality. Yeah, like
same with Quentin Tarantino. Lord knows.
Yeah.
Like I just think he'd be a little nutty, but I love Steve Buscemi. I just love that he's in like the craziest movies. Like, isn't he in like Biodome?
Oh, is he? I don't know.
Isn't he in Biodome with like Brendan Fraser and like Stephen Baldwin?
Oh, I have no idea.
Oh, he's in Airheads. That's what it is.
Okay,
he's in Airheads, I think, which also is Brendan Fraser. That's why I'm mixing them up. He's not in Biodome. Wait, was Pauly Shore in Biodome?
Yeah, it was Pauly Shore.
Pauly Shore and Stephen Baldwin.
Yeah.
Yes, that's it. We should do. Oh yeah, we have to do a Pauly Shore movie.
Yeah, we should do
Son-in-Law. Yes.
So
okay, after Tarantino, yeah, because I was gonna do Pulp Fiction, but we should do Son-in-Law, and then we'll pick up like Pulp Fiction like down the road. We should do Son-in-Law. We're gonna do Cruel Intentions with Mikey, like in a few days, so that will be one of our next ones. I'm so excited to talk about Cruel Intentions.
Yeah, I am too.
Like so excited. But yeah, it's so crazy too that this movie is like. I love all the characters. Who's your favorite out of everyone? If you had to pick, like character wise, like their character.
Like I think the person who I like personality wise, I'm probably most like is like probably like Mr. Pink, I guess.
Yeah, I was gonna say Mr. Pink's my favorite.
I mean, I think that in reality, I'd probably end up like Tim Roth and be shot and like spend the entire movie like bleeding out, but
I know, screaming like God, this blood freaks me out. And even best to know that when you're watching it at first, you're like, damn, this must have been some crazy shootout. And then when you get further on, you realize it was like this old woman who like had a gun when they were like trying to carjack her, and then she shoots him in the gun. He's like, fuck, like, and you're like, that's what happened. Like,
yeah,
that it was like cops or something. We're like riddling them with bullets and they're running away, and it's like this dramatic thing. I also love that Tarantino did not show the heist.
Yeah, that was cool.
Which is cool too, because obviously the biggest part of the heist film is like the planning and the actual heist. Yeah. You know, so it's cool that like he got around it because it was more about the aftermath and then how they got there. Yeah. So it was pretty cool. I like that.
Well, also like I don't know, like just seeing like Mr. Pink kind of like do an impression of Mr. Blonde like shooting people, like kind of just seems a lot more terrifying than like, seeing it, you know, like on the screen as it actually happened. Like, so
I know, because you're just like, damn, this guy's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, yeah, it's so nuts. It also kind of reads like the fact that it's all in the warehouse also reads like almost like a play.
Yeah.
Like it could take place in a theater, almost like how I feel about Dial M for Murder. Because that one's like all in that apartment, and you could just see that this could easily be a play because except for the flashbacks, but let's say you just had it as the warehouse, like as the entire warehouse, not including any flashbacks, like that could be an entire play where you just pick up at the aftermath of some kind of heist and you just see what happens, but you never see what came before.
Yeah. It also sort of remind me of Rear Window too.
Like, yeah.
You know, like I don't know, like just like in the, you know, fact that we don't really ever leave Jimmy Stewart's apartment, but you know, like we kind of do at the same time. I don't know.
Yeah. No, it's true. Yeah, it's true. It's cool. He also used this non-linear story, which is that something that was done before this film? It has to have been done before, right?
I'm sure it's been done before. I can't like think of anything off the top of my head.
Yeah, I can't either. Not old. All stuff that's been after.
But like it's cool because it's a non-linear storyline, but it's not like too confusing. Like I'm
yeah,
able
that's
to follow
true.
it like pretty easily. So
it's not like Donnie Darko when you're just like, what the fuck's going on here?
Yeah.
Even though like that's another movie from the 2000s that I want to do, but I feel like every time I watch it, I'm like, I think I get it, and then I'm like, what? Or this is a movie called Brick, which is really good. That was like Ryan Johnson's first film, with Joseph Gordon-Levitt. It's also really good. It's like a weird story like that. But see, all of this comes after Tarantino's style of being this like non-linear story. So
yeah,
he definitely inspires a lot of people, a lot of filmmakers, totally. Which is funny. Also, I have a thing to point out that there's no female character in this entire film, which I find really interesting because he does know how to write women pretty well.
Oh yeah,
I think so. I guess the first time he really worked with writing a woman is, I guess, True Romance, because like obviously Patricia Arquette. And did you catch that when he mentions Alabama?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, isn't that cool? Because we didn't know about that until we read the behind the scenes for True Romance. But that's cool how they were like, "What happened with Alabama?" And he's like, "Oh, like I think like Mr. White. It's like, yeah, we were like doing some jobs here and there, but now she's with this other guy and they're pulling jobs." And I was like, "Oh, Alabama, that's so cool." So it was pretty rad. And then I said, this is definitely the shortest film I'm sure he's ever made.
Yes.
Because usually his shit's like 2 hours plus.
Yeah. Like how long was Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
Dude, that was like 2.5 hours. It was really long.
It was like close to 3, I think.
Yeah, it has to be. It's like he's almost like Scorsese now, where he's like, "Fuck you."
Yeah.
Like I'm literally like that. Okay, granted, like I have an issue with some Scorsese films that are just way too long and need to be edited. Most of his are good. Like Wolf of Wall Street was great, and I loved it from beginning to end, all 3 hours of it.
Yeah, me too.
Same with Goodfellas. Loved Goodfellas. Okay, The Irishman. It was like 3 hours and 25 minutes. That needed editing.
Yeah.
There's no way that should have been that long. I was pretty underwhelmed by that film too, because I'd waited so long to see it, and I was like, oh sweet, De Niro, Pacino, fuck yeah, first time since Heat, I guess. Yeah. And then I was like, oh, really? Like, I just didn't like the story. It didn't like work well for me.
Yeah.
Anyway, but I get it. I mean, it was cool, but I get it. But I was kind of like, man, I was kind of expecting more. But I mean, yeah, his stuff is usually like 2 hours or 3 hours.
Yeah.
Tarantino. I don't know how long Pulp Fiction is. How long is that?
I think it's
up there.
It's like 2 hours plus, I think. Like
yeah, so this is like 1 hour and 40 minutes. Oh, it's 2 hours and 58 minutes, Pulp Fiction.
Oh, really? Wow. Okay.
Yeah, okay. Cool.
Sweet.
Yeah, so this is definitely I think one of his shorter ones, but I think it's super cool, yeah. What behind the scenes notes did you dig up? We talked about the walkout.
Yeah.
In our little intro there.
Okay, so apparently a lot of the actors use their own clothes during filming
that's
because because the budget was so small. Most importantly, Harvey Keitel used his own suit, and Chris Penn used his own tracksuit.
Awesome.
And so then apparently Tim Roth was drunk when he auditioned for the role.
And he's playing the cop.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Because I think that Tarantino had asked him to read for it, and he was like, I don't want to, but can I take you all out for drinks? And he was like, sure. And then apparently after a couple drinks, and he was a little loosey goosey, he like started reading, and Quentin was like, you got it.
Oh, nice.
Okay, so these are a bunch of people who were considered but were not cast.
Oh yes, okay, I love them.
Okay, so in the role of Mr. Pink, alternative versions include Dennis Hopper.
Okay, I can see that.
John Cryer.
I could not see that.
Yeah, same. And Tom Sizemore.
Yes, because Michael Madsen and Tom Sizemore are like kind of sort of the same person, but then not at the same time. And also kind of Tom Arnold. They all like I get them all mixed up. All those three guys, very like similar. And
then apparently Matt Dillon was considered for the role of Mr. Blonde.
Instead of Michael Madsen?
Yes.
He would have been cool.
Yeah. I kind of think they got the casting.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. I don't know if I talked about this on another episode, but I finally watched Wild Things from 1998 with Matt Dillon, Kevin Bacon, Denise Richards, and Neve Campbell.
Oh.
What a piece of... It was literally like porn acting. I was like,
really?
This is a joke. Yeah. And like Kevin Bacon produced it. I was like, I can't. The threesome scene that everyone was so hot and bothered about was so weird. And Denise Richards, I mean... Oh,
I saw this really like skating clip where I think she was at like an MTV like function or like red carpet function, and there was this child who was sort of playing the role of a reporter, and he like went up to her and he I forget what movie she was in, but he was just like, so how does it feel to play someone smart?
Oh my god!
And like I think the question just like completely went over her head.
Really? Like yeah. She was just like, oh, yeah. God, that movie was crazy. And so crazy that I don't think I could do an entire episode on it. But yeah, I'd never seen it because it was such a like big. It's kind of like known as a really bad movie. Like it's not like anybody thought it was great, but I was like, I wonder how bad it really is. And I was like, oh, it's bad.
Yeah.
But I watched it.
So also so I couldn't find out what parts they tried out for, but James Woods and David Duchovny also like read for or auditioned at some point.
James Woods.
I mean,
now he's such a weirdo.
I mean, I really want to like him, but now he's like like one of those, like brain dead, like zombies. So,
Yeah, anyway. He kind of sucks. He reminds me, now that I see him on like Twitter and saying all this crazy shit, he makes more and more sense as the dad in the Virgin Suicides. Like, I'm just like, this kind of seems like you, like, just really fucking weird. Like, I don't get it. I don't get it. Wait, David Duchovny, was he doing X-Files at the time?
I think this might have been before, because I think X-Files was 93.
Oh shit! Could you imagine if he'd done Reservoir Dogs and then got cast in X-Files?
Well, he didn't do Reservoir Dogs, but he did get Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead.
Oh, and he also did California with Brad Pitt and Juliette Lewis. That's another one. Yeah, that's true. And he also was in Californication, which is actually really good. I like that show. Damn, that's crazy. Now, was Quentin Tarantino always going to play Mr. Brown, you think? Probably.
I believe, no, well, I think from what I read, he was originally supposed to play the role of Mr. Pink, but I think that
Quentin was?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
But I think that Steve Buscemi just like had such an awesome audition that there's like, all right, fine, you got it.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
And Mr. Blue's like barely in it. I think Mr. Blue's like in the beginning.
Yeah.
We still don't know how he was killed, right?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, we didn't see what happened to Mr. Brown. Like, we saw him shot, but we didn't see like how. I guess the cops probably shot him.
Was he? Okay, yeah, because like his death scene was a little confusing to me.
Yeah, he was like coming out of he was like running out of, I guess, the jewelry shop and like running into the green car. Right. And then like as he was driving and then he crashed, he like made a turn, but he didn't make it and then crashed. And it looked like he was like bleeding from like the gut or something. Oh, like he had a gunshot wound and then he would kind of slowed up. And that's when he stayed in the car. Like he never got out.
Yeah, okay.
I don't think, yeah. And then, that's when Mr. White just like fucking like just shot like those cops in that car.
Yeah.
And like Mr. Orange just like, fuck. Like, what the fuck? I was like, oh my God. I think that's after we like knew. Like, or maybe I think it's after we knew that like he was a cop, pretty sure. But yeah, crazy. Oh yeah, keep going.
Okay, so this is, I thought this was a fascinating tidbit and just kind of gross at the same time, but apparently Tim Roth spent so much time lying in fake blood during filming that he became sealed to the floor.
Ew!
And so they had to unstick him so he could leave.
Oh my god. Fucking shit. He was in like the weirdest position like the entire film. He's just like on the floor. Like he's literally like slumped up on the ground in the corner. Like when other people are just talking.
Yeah.
He's just like sleeping / passed out.
And it's weird because he's like lying down, but he's still kind of like propped up at like
so it's just it's like it's a weird slumped over. It's so strange. It's like so strange. God.
So yeah, I think that's all I have for behind this.
Okay, nice. All right. So Quentin Tarantino, this is what I have. Quentin Tarantino was working at a video store and was going to shoot this for $30,000 on a 16 millimeter. And he was doing something like he sent the script to like an acting class or acting school who someone showed it to Keitel. Keitel said, I'll help you produce it and find some money. Then like raise some money. The producer was going to play, I think, the policeman who was like, I think this guy that he knew who was going to produce it originally was going to play like the policeman, and Harvey Keitel was like, no, we can like, this is a really cool story. We can like get some money and we can like do this, you know?
Yeah.
So Keitel helped produce it, which is really cool. So this would have been like a way lower scale, whole thing. So that's pretty awesome.
That just kind of makes me love him even more.
I know. That's why I love Harvey. Yeah, Harvey Keitel's so cool. I really like him. So the budget was 1.2. I think they have till 3 million on Wikipedia, but I don't know. But it was, I think, like 1.5 is about, like, I think what it was. But it made 2.8 million in North America because it didn't open. It premiered at Sundance in '92, and it was like the most talked about film. Yeah. And then Miramax picked it up, and it came out, I think, in October of '92, and it was out for like a few screens, and then it got released a little bit bigger, but it was more of like a cult. Like this is considered a really classic independent cult film. Really started like this film was one of the ones that kind of jump started indie film in the '90s. Like it's a really important film as the whole spectrum of cinema goes. So yeah, just a lot of new, like unknown director. And then I saw an interview with Tim Roth and Steve Buscemi from like 10 months ago when they were on James Corden, I think it was. And he was like, oh, I got to ask you, like, how was Reservoir Dogs? Like, how was Quentin? And then, how was it working with him? And Steve Buscemi was like, it was so cool. He's like, I never met a director that was like so confident for his first like movie. Like he knew exactly, he never done it before, but he knew exactly what to do. And he was just like, he just knew, and we just all worked with him, and it was awesome. He's like, cool. Super cool. Yeah. And he's like, I'm glad that this was one of those films that people saw, because sometimes you do these small movies and nobody sees them. Yeah. So he's like, I'm glad that, this was really cool. And then Tim Roth was talking about, like, they were like, oh, when did you first meet? And like, oh, we went to Harvey's house, like Harvey Keitel, to like read the script and all that kind of stuff. So that was pretty cool. So I was like, yeah. Oh, sweet. So yeah, I definitely think my next section is fashion. The only things I have are, now that I know that it was most of their clothes, which that's so cool. Yeah. Like I was gonna say, I like that they had like suits for the job, which is cool. So that they're all dressed alike and there was no like, like you couldn't really pick anyone out. Yeah. Which I thought was cool, like the Blues Brothers. Yeah. And then I love the clothes they had on when they all got their names. Yeah. They were cool. Meaning like, yeah, and they had kind of different wardrobes. Like Quentin Tarantino had like a floral, like a loungewear, like a 70s type like floral shirt on.
Yeah. So I think Mr. Pink was also kind of wearing a like cool kind of Hawaiian shirt. At the same time, and it just made me wonder: does everyone own a Hawaiian shirt but me? Because I know, because I feel like I want to announce to the world that I'm fun and frisky. You
also want to be prepared in case someone in your office is like, "Let's have Hawaiian shirt day," and
I know,
want to be the asshole who doesn't have one. Of course, everyone's like, "Yeah, sure, Hawaiian shirt." Like, no, I think if you're Hank Schrader from Breaking Bad, you definitely have a Hawaiian shirt at home. Yeah. But I definitely don't think the average male just has a Hawaiian shirt.
I mean, I also don't live in California, so maybe that's part of it.
Even in California, no. You also don't live in Florida and aren't like 80 plus.
Yeah.
Why would you have multiple Hawaiian shirts? Unless it was a costume. Yeah. You were like on Gilligan's Island. Didn't like Gilligan have? No, he didn't have a Hawaiian shirt. Didn't someone have a Hawaiian shirt on like Gilligan's Island? Seems like they would.
I don't remember.
Maybe not. No, they actually didn't.
I don't know.
Oh Yeah, no. I love that they all have this kind of like 70s loungewear vibe anyway.
Yeah.
Which is super cool. I thought it was super neat.
Yeah.
I love that they have that's one of my favorite scenes is like when they all get their names, like with the colors, like which we'll get to. But I just have for production design, I just love that warehouse.
Yeah.
In general, I just think it's really cool. It looks like it's in like East Hollywood in LA somewhere. So I don't know exactly where. And I love the shooting style, like within the what do you call it? The warehouse, like how the camera pans around. Like he has some cool kind of like tricks and stuff.
Yeah.
I think that he uses it looks really different from all the different angles.
Yeah.
Like it looks like a totally different place.
Well, a lot of those shots are like really long. Like
yeah, they are.
Like I think before Mr. Blonde shows up when Mr. Pink and Mr. White are just kind of having a spat. Like I mean, it's all done in like a single take.
Yeah, it has to be.
Yeah, and like I don't know, it's just cool. And then there's like one more like tracking shot that I thought was really cool. Like during the torture scene when Mr. Blonde leaves and like walks out to his car and gets the gasoline and walks back in. Like I was like, okay, the scene's horrifying, but that was a cool shot.
Another cool shot is when Mr. Blonde is like torturing the cop. And he's like cutting his ear off or he's like slashing him something. And the camera pans up to like a blank part in the wall.
Yeah.
And you can still hear him torturing him. And then you think it's going to like fade out and then it pans back down to like his head.
Yeah. Yeah.
What I thought was cool is it was like all one single shot, which I thought was cool. And then it kind of came back and then you saw what he was doing and everything. But yeah, no, he definitely has some like cool tricks. I do like that one too, where they follow him out to the car. And then he also has that, I guess that was a nod to Scorsese when they show that trunk shot, because that's how Goodfellas opens up.
Okay.
I want to do Goodfellas too, because I love Goodfellas, but I need to watch Casino too. It's another one I haven't seen.
Oh,
and I love Sharon Stone.
Well, that like reverse trunk shot, I think that appears in like most of Tarantino's movies at some point.
Yeah, I think it does, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
But yeah, it's sort of a reminds me of like a Breaking Bad shot too, like
yeah, it does.
But yeah,
Breaking Bad has so much cool shit in it too.
Oh, I know. They
have really cool, like I was gonna say, like, and now on the music, it's like a 70s soundtrack. And it has that radio station, which is cool.
Yeah,
where it kind of does that.
Yeah, I liked that Stephen Wright was the DJ.
Who is that? Why do I know that name? But I can't place his face.
I think he's like a kind of pretty famous stand-up comedian.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I think he always just sort of like speaks in like a very Eeyore.
Oh, I know him. Voice. Oh, that's his name.
Yeah.
Oh, I know him. Oh, cool. Okay. Yeah, I know him.
Yeah.
That's funny. Oh, also a nod to, have you seen Swingers?
Yes.
Hey, you know how when there's a one part in Swingers and they talk about like their favorite film directors. They bring up Tarantino, they bring up Scorsese, and they do like the whole nod to the beginning of Reservoir Dogs where they're like all sitting at the diner and they have the camera like going in the circular pan as they're all talking, just like the beginning of Reservoir Dogs. And they all talk about like who has the dopest shots, and they're like Reservoir Dogs. And they're like, man, Tarantino ripped everything from Scorsese. And they're like, that slow motion tracking shot. And then they show all of the guys in Swingers doing the same slow motion tracking shot that they do in Reservoir Dogs. Like, it's really funny. I love Swingers too. It's like one of my favorite movies. But yeah, so that was really cool that they have that. Like, they're like super inspired by, I think it's Doug Liman who directed Swingers. But yeah, it was really funny that they're like Tarantino, like these film geeks.
Yeah,
that was weird too. And also in Scream 2, when Mickey did it and he has the camera and they're like, Mickey, the freaky Tarantino film student. Like, because every film guy like just loves Tarantino, it seems. So yeah. I find that super funny. I like Stuck in the Middle with you. I just like that it's during when he's like torturing that cop.
Yeah.
It's super fucked up. That song Fool for Love, the one in Orange's apartment. Who is that? Is that Marianne Faithfull?
I wrote it down. It's sung by Sandy Rogers.
Oh, okay.
But
it sounded like the song in Thelma and Louise.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I thought it was the same woman. And then Can't Stop This Feeling, that ooga chaka, ooga, ooga. I love that song.
Oh, yeah.
That was really funny.
Yeah, so I heard that like they spent most of their music budget on just securing the rights for the Stuck in the Middle with You song.
Just that one?
Like not all of it, but I think that like I think that like I heard that like when Quentin Tarantino writes, he like has certain songs like in the screenplay that he's like writes each scene to.
Like, and it has to be that song.
Yeah. So
that's cool.
So I think this might be one of those cases where like they're like, all right, you can have the song, but you can't do anything else.
So, yeah, damn, like, that's so nuts. That's cool. And that's you to take a chance on like an unknown filmmaker.
Yeah.
You know, because some people might be like, no, we can't have like Rolling Stones. Like, it's just going to cost too much for the movie. And they're like, no, it has to be. Like, that's what I wrote the scene to.
Yeah.
It totally has to be. That's cool. Did you have any standout songs?
Not really.
It wasn't that much even in terms of score. Like, if they weren't in a car or he had turned on the radio, like the music was coming from like an organic place. Yeah. They weren't coming from like just like a track like over. It was like he had the radio on. That's why we were hearing that song. It was other ones were in the car. So like that's why we were hearing that song. Yeah, and like the same in Mr. Orange's apartment. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because he went and turned it off. Yeah. So that's really interesting. That means it's part of the story. You know, like it actually like they hear it, which is kind of cool. Like they hear it as well as we hear it, which is neat. So let's move on to your favorite scenes and like standouts. What are some of the things that you really liked about this? What was your first favorite scene? I'm trying to think. I think we talked about most of them already. I love the scene that you brought up when they all kind of meet together for the first time. Oh my god, I love that scene. And like Joe like assigns everyone a name, and then they're like, "Well, I don't want to be Pink," and there's like, "You're Mr. Pink," and there's like, "But well, can I trade?" And he's like, "No." He's like, "This ain't a goddamn city council meeting. We're not trading." And he's like, "What can I be purple?" He's like, "Because someone else in another job is Mr. Purple. You're Mr. Pink." I was like, "Oh my god." I was like, "That's so funny." And then I'm trying to think. It's not so much that I like the torture scene, but I like Michael Madsen in the torture scene. He's so hot. Like, I mean, I don't know. He just looks so like he's having so much fun. And if you just kind of ignore the fact that he's mutilating a police officer, then he seems like he'd be a fun person to go to a bar with, you know. Like he definitely is like ride or die for Miss was it Louise? Yeah. Or is it Thelma? No, it's Louise. Yeah, it's Louise. Yeah, he's like ride or die for Louise, so he kind of like comes through in that. I do like Mr. Blonde, and I love that when you kind of think that they're all really shitty, and then Chris Penn is like, "So you're gonna tell me that he took off with the diamonds, even though like he did time for my dad and like all this bullshit?" He's like, "You're fucking lying." I was like, "Oh god." Yeah. It's like, this is crazy that he actually used some type of logic to like figure that out. I know. But I thought was really crazy. One of my favorites is like the beginning round table. The swingers nods, the waitress economics of tipping, of like why like Steve Buscemi's like, "No, I'm not gonna tip. I'm like only because the society like, you know, directs me to," and they're all like, "But they don't work. These are the jobs that they have. There's nothing else they can do. They rely on tips." And he's just like, I just love the whole like back and forth of this. It has almost like a Woody Allen sense. Yeah. With like conversation where you're like, it's honestly a real conversation. How, you know, usually in scripts things get let go. You know, they talk about one thing and then it just moves on to the next. But like this is like what you would talk about with your friend at a diner. Like you would be talking about the same subject for like a good 10 minutes because that's what you're talking about, you know? So I like how he writes conversations. You could really tell that he like his writing style, like even from the beginning, that he's gonna like really like, you need to be a great actor, I think, to work with Tarantino. Oh yeah. I mean, I'm assuming he's pretty script based.
Mm-hmm.
I think Scorsese's a bit looser from what I've read. That like if you ad lib, I don't think he has a problem with it. I don't know about Tarantino. Like, is every word written?
I don't know.
And like every line and every bit of conversation? I know that I've heard Frances McDormand say that the Coen brothers is like word for word, like
Oh, really?
rhythm for rhythm. She's like, it's like she wasn't talking about like all the different films she'd been in. And she was like, that scene in the bar where I'm talking to those two strippers in Fargo.
Mm.
She's like, that was written in the exact beats that we played it.
Oh,
Like they write it so specifically that it's like literature, you know?
right.
So she's like, so that's why I wonder, is Tarantino more like, you have to say every single word because he's such a writer. You know, he writes so much.
Yeah.
So I just wonder if like you really need to say everything, or if he's more, you know, off script. Like I think Woody Allen is a little bit off script too.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. He's another one that I have no idea how that works.
Yeah.
But,
yeah. I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, it's that's interesting.
Yeah, he just seems like I can never like imagine him not being. I love that Mr. Pink is like a psychopath, just ain't professional, and his whole thing is like, we're supposed to be professionals here. Like, why are you guys fighting and acting so fucking crazy? Like, it's just so nuts. I also love the image of like when you see Mr. Blonde show back up at the warehouse because they're like wondering where he is, and he has like this soda.
Yeah.
And I think like Mr. White's like, oh, did you finish the fries? And he's like, yeah, I ate them in the car. I was like, oh.
Like, oh, of course he'd stop and get food.
I know, right? I was like, hot damn. And he had that sweet car.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love how you just want to know everything.
Oh, so apparently that was like his own car.
What? It was Michael Madsen's own car?
Yeah.
Shut up. He just gets cooler by the second.
No.
I hope I'm not gonna regret that. I hope there's not some crazy story about him.
There is like a brief shot where that I also loved when Mr. Blonde is in the background. I think it's after Chris Penn shows up, and he's just kind of like sitting on top of that car in the warehouse and just kind of like chimes in, and he's just like, yeah, that's right. You know?
Apparently that was an old mortuary, and that was a hearse that they were sitting on. That he was sitting on. Yeah,
that's cool.
Which is so funny. Wasn't he in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
Who?
Michael Madsen.
Was he? I don't remember.
He's in like almost every Tarantino movie.
He was in Kill Bill and
Hateful Eight.
Okay.
Thelma and Louise, Donnie Brasco. I don't think that wasn't Tarantino.
I think probably his most important role was when he played the lead role in the movie Species.
I haven't seen that.
It's pretty creepy.
Is that the one with Sigourney Weaver? No, that's Aliens.
No, I think that's the one with Natasha Henstridge.
Is it good or is it like kind of whack?
It's I mean, I like it. Is
it like campy?
I mean,
or is it like a serious, like fucking crazy shit?
It's like played very seriously, but
okay.
But yeah, it's it's good.
Was that before Reservoir Dogs?
I think this was after.
Oh, okay. Wow.
But yeah,
he was also in The Doors, which I want to do too.
Okay.
Well, yeah, 95 is Species. Who directed that? Roger Donaldson.
Okay.
This just sounds weird. A group of scientists try to track down and trap a killer alien seductress before she successfully mates with a human. Get the fuck out of here. And of course it's Natasha Henstridge.
I mean, I will say that it wasn't just pure porn. They made an effort to try and include plot.
Michelle Williams was in this?
Yes.
She was the young version of Natasha Henstridge.
Yeah.
What? Oh, goodness. Okay.
Yeah,
that doesn't sound like that serious. But I get it. I got that mixed up with Aliens, which I have not seen.
Okay.
Still have not seen Aliens.
Well, Aliens is like a good movie.
Yeah, isn't that Ridley Scott?
Yeah.
Okay. I figured. Let's see. Do you have any other scenes?
I don't think so. I think we covered most of them. This movie is strange because it all kind of felt like it was like all like one long scene at times.
Yeah, it did, except for like the splices of flashback.
Yeah, like I mean, like there aren't like a lot of like transitions or like things to like break up the like story. It just feels like it's like one long like
It moves fast.
Yeah.
I feel like when you're watching it, you're just like, I don't know. That's one thing about his films is that I just find them so interesting to watch. Like they really keep you engaged, and even his writing too. Like I think after this was Natural Born Killers.
Okay.
Like his writing anyway. Or I mean, I guess he did Pulp Fiction, but then I guess Natural Born Killers came out after. But it's like it's just all of his writing just has you like so interested.
Yeah.
I feel like I never find a dull moment. It's kind of like Scorsese's the same way. Like I never get that bored.
Yeah.
There's always like some crazy shit happening and the violence was out of control.
Oh yeah.
Like it was so out of control. I was like, oh my God. And I love that they're just these little like weird things that happen that are just so funny where they're like, where that woman is the one that shot the cop.
Yeah.
Like it's just funny. You naturally assume something crazy happened, and then you find out it's this fucking woman who's just like shoots the fucking cop, like because they're trying to carjack her. And that Harvey Keitel is kind of like the most ridiculous badass one. Aside from Madsen, they're like the two scary ones because he like shot those cops in that car.
Yeah.
When like Roth was right behind him, and he looked like holy fuck, like. He literally just killed a bunch of cops and didn't care. Like, he just kept going. He was like, come on, keep going. Which was so crazy and nuts. I also love the telling of the commode story.
Oh, yeah.
I love how it went through all these different ways. And they had to, like, he had to run it. Like, and I love the guy who was the cop that he was telling everything to. Like Mr. Orange, and he was telling him like, here's your script, you got to memorize this. And he's like, if you got to be undercover, you got to be like a fucking great actor, you got to be like Marlon Brando, like they have to believe you, you know. And he's like, all right. And he's like, but you know, make up some shit on your own, but like keep to the story. So then it's cool how you see them like gain the trust by just telling this like ridiculous story about a drug deal and like these 4 cops and a German Shepherd. You're just like, what? Like, this is so crazy. And then they just all like, and I love that, of course, that's what made him like not 100%. Yeah. And I love the guy, was it Lawrence Tierney?
Yeah, he was great.
He's so good. I love him in this really funny Seinfeld episode because he's Elaine's dad.
Oh, okay.
In Seinfeld, and he's like this same exact character. And he is like very gruff and like mean and like talks down to Jerry and George. Like they're idiots. Like it's really funny and kind of like yells at his daughter, like, why are you friends with such idiots? Like they're so stupid. But he's really funny in that role. And I love that he's in this and he's like him and Chris Penn are like father and son. And Chris Penn is just like, it's so sad about Chris Penn. Like, he was such a funny actor. Like, I think he did really, really cool stuff. I was watching Murder by Numbers the other day, and I was like, "Oh, Chris Penn!" Another great film, Murder by Numbers.
So he was apparently in this Christian Slater movie called Mobsters.
What's that?
I think it's like, I don't know. I think it's sort of about like a Christian Slater plays a young guy who starts to work for the mob.
He does a lot of these like. Wait, he's not like undercover. He's like actually working for the mob.
I think so, yeah.
I want to see that movie that you showed me. What was it? Pause or no, Cuffs?
Yeah.
We need to do a deep dive into Christian Slater. We have to do Pump Up the Volume. Heathers for sure.
Oh my God,
even though that's 80s, but definitely Heathers. And Gleaming the Cube.
Gleaming the Cube, yeah. And
he had a lot. He was working. In like the 90s. He was like a little Luke Perry.
I know.
Oh, also Luke Perry makes a little cameo in Fifth Element.
Oh, he does?
Yeah, you got to watch it. Charles has not seen Fifth Element, so I was just talking to him about it off air. So yeah, go check it out and listen to the episode. But yeah, check it out. It's cool. And Bruce Willis could also get it in that film we were talking about. I was like, oh yeah, Bruce Willis isn't bad.
Oh, also, I just thought this was kind of endearing. Chris Penn was also in the movie To Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar.
Oh my God, I know. How that movie like couldn't be made today.
I know.
I don't think. We should do Adventures of Priscilla. That's if you had to pick which one to watch, it's a far better, like, I guess, more realistic option.
Oh yeah.
It's so good. And I guess it was kind of like, what did they make that in response to like an American?
So that's,
but not really though.
So that's sort of what I always assumed, but I think the official story is that no, it was just a coincidence.
Yeah, no, because Tu Wong Fu came out like way after.
Yeah, I think.
It wasn't like 93. with Priscilla?
I think Priscilla was 94, and then To Wong Foo came out the following year.
Oh, okay, yeah, and they probably saw how like popular it was because they won the Oscar.
Yeah,
for like costumes, right?
Yeah, and I love how the costume designer for Priscilla was wearing a dress that was made out of like all like American gold like express cards.
Oh my god, when she won?
Yeah.
Oh my god! Oh wow, I have to look this up.
Yeah. It's really cool. And then,
my god, no way.
And then like I also heard that like apparently like they like their budget like on Priscilla for costumes was like so small that like they like really had to like kind of like be like thrifty and like find stuff in order to make it like look good. But like apparently underneath like those costumes were a mess, and like I think that the costume designer had a mother who worked at like a Kmart or something and was able to get them a discount. And I think their official budget was only like $5,000.
Oh my god!
Yeah,
wow. Like, because that one dress is made out of like sandals.
Yeah,
like punched together like flip flops, but like a whole bunch, like a whole lot of pairs.
Yeah,
just punched together. Oh, that's so cool.
I know.
Oh wow, that's awesome. They did like such an amazing job. But yeah, it's crazy how you think like costumes are such, especially if you're doing a really specific film. Like I wonder what the costumes for Pulp Fiction I don't think were that crazy. But like when you do something period, like I'm gonna watch Inglourious Bastards, like when you have to do something that takes place in like World War II, everything has to be outfitted. like everything. Yeah. Even the extras in the back. So it's like, or they have to wear clothes like similar to or something. It's kind of nuts. I was like, oh my god.
Yeah, it's kind of weird to think that movies that now take place during the 80s are considered like period pieces, because like
so were the 90s. And someone tweeted this morning, I saw on Twitter, and it was like, now 1960 is in 1990 and 1960, like when we saw in the 90s, we thought the 60s was 30 years ago. Now that's the 90s now. Because that's 30 years from where we are now. I was like, fucking shut up.
Oh, god, they're right too.
I know. I was like, ew, we're just as far away from the 60s as we were in the 90s that we are right now from the 90s.
Yeah.
I was like, oh god, that's so crazy.
Enjoy your youth, you Generation Z trash. Like,
I mean, now I think is there going to be like a pandemic generation? There are a lot of like babies that are probably going to be born within the next like 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
So I wonder if they're going to be like they're going to be born after this like weird pandemic that we had that they're going to have to like hear about.
Yeah.
They'll be like, God, Mom, no one wants to talk about this time you wore masks. like in like 20 years, when all these kids like
and
seeing all these weird things like about what was happening then.
Yeah, and like like when we're like 60, we're going to be going to a restaurant and like kind of hiding, like going to the bathroom and like slipping like toilet paper into our bags just in case,
I know. We never want to be caught like we were that time in 2020. The shit was crazy and you couldn't find like any Clorox wipes or like any like nothing, like everything was closed down. Like it was fucking crazy, man.
Oh.
I don't even know. It's just such a nut. I can't even. Oh, I have another scene that I like a lot from Reservoir Dogs. I really like when Tim Roth's in his apartment and he like looks in the mirror before he goes out and he's like, "You're cool. They're gonna believe you. They're gonna believe you because you're why? Because you're cool. Because you're really fucking cool." He like gives himself this pep talk. I was like, and I think the guys who are following when he comes out and gets in, like, I guess it's Mr. White's car or someone. And I love it. The cops behind him are like, man, he must have like balls of steel to be doing this. Like, why the fuck is he doing this like crazy job? Like this super crazy thing. And then they like go and follow after him. And of course there's like so many different like horribly racist conversations that somehow Quentin Tarantino is able to get away with.
Yeah.
And I guess it's too late now because I mean, I don't think he really, I don't know. I don't know how it works, but it kind of, that's just like a really horrible and like sense of realism with it too.
Mm-hmm.
Like it doesn't feel like gratuitous. Like even in Django, I was like, yeah, this is kind of what it is, people.
Well, yeah, I mean, I sort of got the sense like those would be the kind of things that people like that would like naturally say.
Yeah.
And I mean, granted, a lot of it didn't really make a lot of sense.
Yeah, but like I feel like that's realistic.
Oh yeah, no,
I don't think he's writing it from like a place where like it doesn't sound realistic, because I think if it didn't, it would be like, okay, makes no sense. Like, why would they be saying this or saying that? But like I feel like that's probably what these guys would talk like.
Oh yeah.
Most likely, you know, like
absolutely.
like in most of the films too. And you want to if you're portraying realism, which he definitely does, he definitely doesn't have a like fantastic like fantasy kind of action film. You know, it's not like John Wick.
Yeah.
John Wick is very, you know, somewhat realistic because he's this like crazy badass assassin, but like the amount of killing he does is not entirely realistic, like in the sense that he does it. But in this film, it's like things are happening as it realistically would if a heist went bad.
Yeah.
And like all these things happen. Like these are all things that would happen. They would all turn their guns on each other and end up shooting each other. And like that's the only way that this works for them, you know? But yeah, it's such a crazy. Yeah, it's really cool too to see like that's really a good idea to have a heist, have them all have code names, no one knows each other. Bring them all in for different reasons, but then of course it's gonna fuck up.
Yeah.
Just will.
I do also love that scene when like Mr. Orange and Mr. White are in the car and they're like parked outside of the store, and like they're saying, okay, so when it happens, you know, Mr. Brown will be here and Mr. Blue will be here.
Mm-hmm.
And they just kind of go through a dry run, and then I love how that scene ends with Harvey Keitel saying, "I'm hungry, let's grab a taco."
Yeah, I know. I know. I like that too. I was like, I'm hungry, let's get a taco.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, so cool. I don't know what I'm gonna name. I really have no idea what I'm gonna name this episode, because I don't know many like short. I mean, I had some ideas. But...
I do like that quote from Mr. Blonde in response to Mr. White saying, "That's your excuse for going on a murderous rampage," and Mr. Blonde replies, "I don't like alarms, Mr. White."
True, yeah. If they hadn't have done that, like they would still be alive or something like that.
And then I don't think I wrote down any other quotes.
I wrote, "Why can't we pick our own colors?" I kind of like that. And then I like, "This ain't a goddamn city council meeting."
Yeah.
And I really like the last scene where it's like Mr. White and Mr. Orange, and he's like dying, like Mr. White's like got dying and shot too, and he's like slumped over, but he goes over to Mr. Orange, and it's like they had this like really weird bond too.
Yeah.
Like throughout, and then when he like grabs him and he's like, "We're gonna die, da da da. We're gonna do some time," and then like the very last thing he's like, "I'm a cop."
I was like, God damn it! Why did you do that?
Yeah, I was like, why? Why'd you tell him now? This isn't gonna make a difference.
I mean, I would love to have Mr. White as a friend, and like he seems like such a good friend, and you're kind of admitting to like, you know, betraying him, like like screwing him over.
Yeah.
So,
like, and what's this gonna do now?
Yeah.
Like you're both probably gonna die.
Well,
so like, what is this gonna do?
Well, was Mr. Orange shot again during the Mexican standoff?
I think so.
Okay.
Was it like, wasn't he shot again by
Joe, right?
Joe, right? Because he had the gun on him. Someone else had the gun on.
And then I think Eddie had, yes.
But then at the very end, Mr. White like pulls his gun near his head, and then the cops come in, and he look like he's about to pull the trigger. You don't see him pull the trigger and shoot him in the head, but I think he does, because then when the cops are like, put the gun down, drop the gun, Mr. White like falls back, like after he shot Mr. Orange, then they shot him.
Yeah.
So I think he killed Mr. Orange first, because he said, "I'm a cop," like twice.
Yeah.
Like he didn't even say it once, and then he was like, "What?" He was like, "I'm a cop," and then he was like, "I'm sorry." I mean, he was like, "I'm a cop." I think because he didn't believe him. He was like, "What?" Like, "No, you have to be kidding." And he was like, "I'm a cop." I was like, buzzkill. I was like, the fucking cops were there, dude. Like maybe they had an ambulance right outside.
Yeah.
And you like would have been okay. They would have known.
So the opening scene after the credits when Mr. Orange is like, I'm dying, man, I'm dying.
I was screaming.
That like just listening to that kind of stressed me out. But
I know you text me like, God, I feel like Tim Roth thinks I shot him. He's fucking screaming at me. Just to know that he's being like such a bitch about it when he was shot by this old woman that he was trying to carjack is even funnier. It's not like he was shot in like a firefight with like a bunch of like gangsters or cops. He was shot by this like old woman because he was trying to carjack her.
Yeah.
And she had her gun out, and then as soon as he opened the door, and he was just gonna threaten her, and then boom, she shoots him right in the gut.
I mean, I don't know, just not to take an anti-NRA stance, but chances are if she didn't have the gun and she just let them have the car, she'd probably be alive. So
yeah, I was gonna say because then he shot her, and I was like, he's a cop. Like even though he got shot, but I think immediately he just was like, "Fuck you!" Like boom, and I was like, "Oh shit!" And they just like threw her out.
Oh yeah, okay. Okay. So I had a weird thought, and I wasn't sure if this was like off or not, but did it kind of occurred to me that Mr. Orange might be kind of playing it up a bit for the drama just to try and get Harvey Keitel to drop him off at the hospital.
Do you think?
I don't know, because I imagine getting shot is like a pretty traumatic thing, so that might be just like a natural reaction.
Well, that's true, because I didn't think, because back then when he was saying like get me to the hospital, we didn't know that he was the stoolie.
Yeah.
Because anybody who is a criminal or watched enough criminal movies or TV shows knows that when you're shot, you can't go to the hospital because they contact the police for any gunshot wound.
Yeah.
So if he really was a criminal, he wouldn't want to go to the hospital.
Yeah.
But the fact that he was like, you can just drop me off out front, like it doesn't matter. He could have done the drama thing to like in the car to get him to go to a hospital, but he was like, no. You have to know though that if you're a criminal, they're not going to take you to the emergency room.
Yeah.
It's going to expose them.
Yeah.
And then of course like, and didn't he say like he said something? He also got under Mr. White too because he told him his name.
Oh, right.
Did it like Mr. White eventually told Mr. Orange's name because they'd been like bonding and like, he was like right next to him and didn't want him to die. And then that's, I think, when they were like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
You don't tell anyone your fucking name. Like, did you tell him where you were from? And he's like, well, I might have told him like where I was from or like my first name or something. And they're like, what the fuck? Why the fuck didn't you tell me give you guys names? Like, it's just so funny.
Yeah.
But that's true. Yeah, I didn't think about that.
Oh, and then there was one more quick shot, like just before they pick him up at his apartment, when he like dumps his change bowl out and like grabs a wedding ring. And so,
oh yeah, I saw that.
So like, do you think his like the role he's playing is like someone who's married, or do you think that he was married and is now divorced, and that still like means the ring still means something to him? I don't know,
but I feel like if you're working with a bunch of criminals, like wouldn't they notice if you had a ring on?
Yeah,
like a wedding ring on if you didn't before. I don't think he had it on before, but it was weird that he like took it and shook it out of that change thing and like put it on.
Yeah,
maybe he thought he was gonna die or something.
Well, because I mean, I don't think you get any like sense of time, but like, do you think that meeting where they all meet for the first time occurs like really soon before the actual heist?
Probably.
Like, I mean, I imagine they probably want like at least a week or so just to kind of.
And they knew when the diamonds were coming in because they were like, they're coming from Israel, I think.
Yeah.
So there was clearly like a timeline that they had to do this in because they were going to get shipped somewhere else. So they had to get them before they were like shipped out.
Yeah. Okay.
Most likely. Huh. But yeah, I think it probably like a week or a few days.
Okay.
Because you don't want too much lead time in between your job and your planning, because then the cops can find out.
Yeah. I mean,
and like if it's too soon,
I imagine a smart thing you could do is just to like get everyone under like one roof, like, all right, so you guys are going to live here for the next week, and you'll have like an hour's notice before we leave to go
go pull the job. Yeah, and make sure no one's following you.
Yeah.
Like, make sure you don't have any tails on you to see that you're going to this one central place where other people are showing up. Because then, like, they'll be, if they're looking at you, like, if you have heat on you, then don't do this job.
Yeah.
They could possibly be tailing you at some point.
Yeah.
But yeah, then they said that too. I think one of their other jobs, I think it was Joe, where he was like, yeah, or maybe it was Mr. White. He was like, yeah, we had another job that went bad. We had like an undercover, like in our, I think he was talking to Mr. Pink. He was like, yeah, I did another job where we had an undercover, and we like we found out in time, I think, and then they like walked away. So he'd been in another situation where he was doing a job and like they found out there was an undercover and they like walked away from it.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Crazy. Well, I have nothing else.
Yeah, I don't either.
Nice. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed Reservoir Dogs. Go check it out if you haven't seen it, if you like Tarantino. And thanks so much for the reviews on Apple. They're awesome. Keep it up. Tell your friends, whatever. And I think we're on Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever.
Googify Podcast, wherever.
Googify, Stitcher, Overcast. I put it everywhere. So just go check it out. And yeah, we're going to do Cruel Intentions with Mikey soon.
Yay.
13 is coming up. We will do, what is the one we said we're going to do? Son-in-Law?
Yes.
We're going to do Son-in-Law next. Yeah, we're going to do Son-in-Law. So yeah, we got some cool stuff coming up.
Yay.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll see you guys on the next one.
Bye.
Bye.